G'day guys, how's it going? So I'm just doing a follow-on video on my two risk management videos. I'm just going to do one explaining essentially how to use my calculator. My calculator is built to always give you the position size you need to have the 1% risk or whatever risk percentage you choose, but to keep that position size so you're only risking a certain amount. It's also built through staggered entries, which I will show you as well. So that's why I am a really big fan of it. I do a lot of staggered entries. That's why I built it. So hopefully you guys get some use out of it too. So we'll come over and we'll have a look at it. So I'm just going to do it based off this trade. Now the trade doesn't really matter, but I'll walk you through the calculator. So first things first, any of the squares with a red outline, don't touch them. So they all have formulas. They're going to do calculations based on the data you put in. So if you start to realize, if you start to find out that your results are coming out weird, there's a good chance that you've typed something in one of those boxes. In that case, just either message me or use the link in the video and make another copy, and it'll be back to the original formulas. So starting off, we have the account size, right? And this is the other thing. So if you ever forget, you should be able to just mouse over and you'll get this comment from me that says what to put in that box. But right now, so we'll start with account size. So that's pretty self-explanatory. You look at your account, you put the number in. Now you can do that in Bitcoin, you can do it in USD, you can do it in AUD, you can do it in any which way you want. It'll always spit back your results in that same currency. So I find that really handy that I can just convert, if I'm using my USD account or my BTC account, I can just convert it really easily. I can go 0.001 and it'll spit back my cost in Bitcoin. So, but let's use a $1,000 account for now. We'll use a $10,000 account. We'll feel like big ballers for today. Next one is your risk percentage. So that's how much you are happy to risk per trade. I'd always recommend having that at 1%, especially when you're starting out. If you have been a successful trader for a while, you might up it to 2, 3, at most 5%, but definitely recommend 1% when you're starting out. The risk per trade, all that is the dollar value or the BTC value that you are risking. So it just takes your account size, gives you the 5% risk and spits back the number. So 5% of $10,000 is $500. So that's what we've got there. Your trade direction, long or short, that is just put there to stop you getting a negative stop loss and a negative cost. I would love if you could get a negative cost off the exchanges and they had to pay you, but unfortunately it doesn't work that way. Leverage, so that's tied in with this effective stop loss box. I'll talk about that when I get to it. But yeah, I'll talk about that when I get to it. Your stop loss value, so you'll pull that straight off your chart. So the stop loss we've got here is 3287. Now I don't bother, you can see that was like 0.03287. I don't bother putting in the zeros because the maths works out the same either way. They're just going to cancel each other out when you put them in the price, and it saves you the risk of putting in one too many zeros or not enough zeros somewhere and potentially risking more or having a really small position size based on that. Number of staggers, this doesn't actually do anything. I just put it in there for peace of mind. When you are doing staggered entries, you can say, I'm going to have 5 staggers, whatever. I don't think I've ever used it since I put it in there, but it's a feature that's there if you want it. So that's the trade variables column. So now we come to the entries. And so the first thing we want to know is what's our entry price. So we're entering off this demand zone, this level. So we'll go with 3410. 3410. Now the ratio, I'll explain that when I do the staggered entries because that's what it's for. But if you're just doing one entry, you want that on 100%. You want 100% of your risk on this position. Stop loss, that's automatically calculated. So that just uses those two numbers to calculate what your stop loss is. So if we come here and compare it to TradeView, 3.61, beautiful. So the cost. So this is telling you this is essentially telling you your position size. I don't deal in contracts for 2 reasons. So by always working in cost, I never have to know the contract price to calculate my position size. You'll notice that if you're buying different alts on BitMEX, their contract prices are always different. So I'd have to have a separate tab. You'd have to get the data off BitMEX, put it in that tab, and then it'd spit out how many contracts you needed. By always working in cost, you never need to know the contract price of the asset. It goes for Binance, goes for BitMEX, goes for the Australian Stock Exchange, works for all of them. The second reason is it allows you to mentally check you're in the right ballpark. So if I know, let's make my leverage something nice and round so it's a bit easier to do the maths. We'll go with 10. All right, so I know that I'm risking 10, because that's my leverage, 10 times 3.6%. So I'm risking 36% of whatever my cost is. So 36% of 13.8 is going to be somewhere in the ballpark of a third, a little bit over a third. And so then I can look at my 13.8, so let's call that 1,400. And I go, I'm risking a bit more than a third. Well, if that was 1,500, a third would be $500. So I know that I'm in the right realm, right? Whereas if I was coming up with $5,000, I've mucked up. I've missed a zero somewhere. Now you should be fine, even if you don't want to do those mental checks, because you can always just check that this amount risk column here matches your risk per trade. If that matches, you're good to go. Your total lot size, that's it's just going to be a cost unless you're doing staggered entries. So we don't have to worry about that for this one. Average entry, same thing. Don't have to worry about that for this one. But your effective stop loss, this is really important. So I have been liquidated once ever, and that was when I forgot to put a stop loss on. I have never been liquidated in a trade where I put a stop loss on, because I always keep my effective stop loss, which is what I call my leverage times my stop loss. I always keep that below 40%. So I've seen BitMEX liquidating at 45% loss of margin, which means if you had your stop, if you say you were trading 10x and you had your stop at 5%, that'd be a 50% loss of margin, so you would have been liquidated. By keeping it below 40, 45 is the lowest I've ever seen BitMEX have it, and that was trading 100x, so chance that you're never going to come across it anyway. But by always keeping my effective stop below 40%, it always keeps me safe from liquidation. So I'd highly recommend, and that's why you'll see, if you change your leverage to, let's say, 15, this will go red, right? That's too high. You're going to be risking liquidation. So always try and keep that below 40%. It's pretty easy to do. So that's everything we need. So then we can come to our exchange and we can put on a trade. So bear with me. Right. So what we have here is my BitMEX testnet account. So I'll show you guys how to use the cost to put in your order, essentially. So we said we were buying at 3,410. That's where we're happy to buy. And our cost that we were willing to put on this trade was 1386. So all we have to do is up this cost until it's about 1386. So I'm going to 1386. Oh, so because we're working in BitMEX is all done in Bitcoin, and the calculator we did in USD. What I'll do is I'll go back and I'll quickly change the calculator to BTC. So let's make this 1 BTC. That'll do us. All right, so 1386. So then we come back to here, and so we want to make our cost 0.1386. So we're going to need roughly 3 times that. So 60, so 55, 50, 1731. So we're going to have a couple more. Oh no, sorry, I'm way off. 1386. So what do we want? 40. There we go. 1385. How good's that? So we know that we can buy 40 contracts of this thing. So it is a little bit more mucking around when you actually get to the exchange, compared to if you had the contract price in there. But I found it a lot easier to do it this way rather than having to find a contract price, stick that in the calculator, and work from there. If you do ever need the contract price on BitMEX, it's down here. It's 1F, but it's that would be the limit price. So 0.03410 would be the contract price at the time we're having to buy. All right, beautiful. So that is, and the same thing works on Binance. I can't get into Binance at the moment. My phone's blown up. But Binance also has the cost function in pretty much the exact same spot, just below all the buy and sell buttons. So if you're doing it on Binance, whether that's spot, whether that's futures, it works exactly the same way. So we'll come back to the calculator, and actually we'll come back to the chart, right? So let's say that we're going to do staggered entries on this one. So we wanted to take one from there, and we thought it might bounce up to 61.8, so we wanted to take one from there, and we'll move our stop down a bit to give us a bit of room. So we still have the, what was that one? 3410. 34, let's just call that 3410. Let's not worry about that too much. And then this one is 3332. Right, so the second price, our second stagger is 3332. You can change the number of staggers if you want. We'll make it 2. Our stop loss we changed, so we have to get that new value. So we have 3217. 3217. And now, let's just say, because we want 50% risk from here, if we put this in and we get to the end and we look at our amount risked, one, our effective stop loss is red, but 2, our amount risked is 0.075, but our risk per trade is only supposed to be 0.05. So we've gone above our risk per trade. We know we've made a mistake. Now what we've done there is we are still taking 100% risk from the first entry, but also adding 50% risk from the second, which means we're trying, so the calculator is trying to risk 0.05 from entry 1 and then 0.025 from entry 2. So we're risking more than what we wanted. So what you want to do is make the ratios 50%. And if you have 3, you could do, 40, 40, 20, 33, 33, 34. You always want to add them up to 100%. How you stagger them, that's up to you. I usually do split. Occasionally I'll go say 30, 30, 40, but for the most part, I just split them evenly. Now the cost is exactly the same, right? So that is just a new calculation based on that. So the total lot size is the 2 costs added up. So that's telling you how much Bitcoin you're putting on the trade if both those orders get filled, or even just to have those orders sitting waiting and have to tie up this much Bitcoin. So, and then the average entry will tell you if both those orders fill, what's your average entry price. So it'll usually be, say, about 2/3. If it's 50-50, it'll end up being roughly, say, like 2/3 the way to the lower one, because you're taking 50% risk from the lower one or from both. That allows you to buy more contracts at the lower price, so it drags it closer to the lower price, which usually results in me getting really good entries when my lower buy is hit. Effective stop loss. So you can see here that it's now red, right? Our stop loss is too big. So we'll just make that 8x and we're back in the black, which is what we want. Now, same thing to place those orders. We come back to BitMEX and we go 3, 4, 10, where we're happy for 0.0552. So it'll be roughly 1/3 of this. So let's say like 14. 484, 552. Beautiful. So we get 16 Ethereum contracts on at the first buy, and then at 332, we have 0.0905 to spend, so roughly double this. So we'll get about 32,905. So I would go with 27. I'd round up. So that's pretty much it. That's how the calculator works. That's how the staggered entries work. If you wanted to do 3 entries, obviously you just do the same thing with those different ratios like I spoke about. I think that's about it. I'll put the link to the calculator in the description. If you're feeling generous, you can send me, I'll put my Bitcoin wallet in there. You can send it to me. My friends have asked if anyone sent me any, and to be honest, I don't know, because I think it's my Binance account, so I wouldn't necessarily notice if some just got added. I just probably assumed I had a good trade. But if you're feeling generous, always happy to be paid. I think that's it. Hope you guys have a fantastic weekend. Hope you get some use out of this calculator. If you do like staggered entries like I do, I find it really, really handy. I used to have to muck around doing different things with my risk in calculators, so it was well worth the time in building this one. I've smashed it ever since, and like I said, I've never been good at using this calculator, so touch wood, you guys won't either. I think that's about it. Good luck. Happy trading.